What's up, everybody? Your old buddy Bandit here, and today we're going to be talking about the soft topper and exactly how I have my bed set up. So if you've been following the channel for a while, you may have seen that I did make sort of a cabinet for my truck bed. I didn't want to go for a full Overland style kind of tray setup because I wanted to be able to remove it from my truck, and that's kind of the reason why I bought the soft topper in the first place. So I have had it in my truck, been able to try it out a couple times and get things in and out and the like. And there are a couple of things that I've seen that I may have done a little bit differently if I were to do it again, but I want to kind of give you all some of the measurements and a quick how-to if you wanted to set your truck up like this. So as always, we do really appreciate your viewership, so please consider subscribing and liking this video. We would really appreciate that. And let's dive right on in here. I have been using the soft topper here for a little while. It's actually been on my truck for the past several weeks, and it has been snowing here in Southwest Virginia. It's been a pretty cold weather. I do mostly park in the garage, but overall it has been very watertight. It has stayed nice. There's no, it doesn't get loose or anything like that. Also, I've been driving in some really heavy winds, and the only negative that I've seen is fuel economy here with the soft topper. I'm guessing since it's not perfectly smooth on the side like if you would have a fiberglass topper, it does kind of rob fuel economy. I've seen it down anywhere between 1 and 2 miles to the gallon. Overall, my truck in these kind of wintry conditions on very short trips, I've been getting between 18 and 19 miles to the gallon. So not exactly the best, but certainly when it is colder weather and when you're not allowing your truck to fully heat up and you're just taking those short trips, that is kind of part of it. You know, you definitely don't get the best fuel economy here in the wintertime. But with all this opened up, here's a couple things that I've been carrying with me in my truck. Here in my bed, a couple things I've been carrying with me. A set of these Tread Pro traction boards. I did a lot of research actually before I bought some traction boards, but in the Overland scene, you're not a real Overlander if you don't have traction boards. Definitely want to try these things out and see what the hype was all about. I know a lot of people spend a whole lot of money on these things, but before I want to test those out, before any of you all spend your money on them, to see if it is worth the hype. So let us know what you would like to see these things tested for. Like I said, we did get a little bit of snow, but I wasn't able to get stuck enough because we didn't have quite enough snow for all of that. But let us know how you would like to see these things tested out. Obviously, Southwest Virginia in the next coming months will have some snow. Obviously, that clay that's found all around. So let us know how you would like to see these things tested. But moving on here, you can see I actually found an old tractor seat. This one's off of a Kubota. But since you have kind of a low seating position here, and since it has this topper on it, I found that it actually is really nice to sit in this thing while in the bed of my truck. So, you know, I just carry this back here. I'm sure it bangs around a little bit, but I haven't heard it. But sitting back here, you know, if you were to wake up after a camping trip and want to sit up and eat your breakfast or whatever, one of these seats would be really good. This thing was free. You know, tractor seats around here are a dime a dozen, but this is a pretty good idea. Obviously, everyone has their own cup of tea, but if I were to spend a rainy camping morning in my truck, I think I would definitely want to have one of these to sit in the bed. But moving on here, let's look at that cabinet that we made. Here's a look at that cabinet that I constructed, and I want to give you all a couple of measurements and a quick how-to on how to do this a little better. So I made this whole setup because I wanted it to be easily removable, and I wanted to be able to get my four-wheeler or this camping setup in my truck in a moment's time. I also wanted to be able to do the whole system by myself, and that's really a big reason why I went with all of this. This is very transformable and very quick to put in and take out, and overall this whole box that you can see in front of you cost me around $50 to build, and most of that was with that plywood. But there are a couple small things that I want to show you all and how I would improve this if you were to do it yourself. So looking here in the truck, if you remember, this front piece comes off, and that actually works really great. These two holes make nice little cutouts, and then you can sit them on the conduit caps that I have on top of here to hold the whole door in place. This works really good, and then you can lift it up, and this front door still stays perfectly intact. Works really well. The problem that I didn't quite think about is this top door here. It is hinged from the back, but it's slightly too wide. You can see up in here, it actually just touches on either side of the soft topper framework. Now, obviously, if you would just make this door a little bit narrower, and obviously I plan on doing that in the future, this wouldn't be an issue. Now, it kind of actually does fix a problem though, because if it was able to pass that and you were to throw it up, there would be nothing stopping it from hitting the soft topper. But with the way it is, you can still get your arm in here, but I think a little bit of extra room would be good. But you can see I have it loaded up with 2 sleeping bags, a toolbox, and some other camping gear there in that gray tub. And overall, it is a lot of room, and it actually works out really nicely. Now, another issue that I didn't quite anticipate is I actually have to have that cabinet installed before the topper, meaning if my bed is completely empty, there's nothing in it, it is much, much easier to go ahead and put that cabinet in before the topper's on. I actually tried to do this the other way around. The topper was on and I tried to install the cabinet, but the way I have it hinging, it doesn't quite work. It would kind of benefit from a little bit of extra room. And I think if you all were to remake this, that is another thing I would include. So let's go ahead and get the soft topper off and get down to some of these measurements. So I get questions from viewers all the time about how modular this soft topper setup is, and it actually, in fact, it is very modular, meaning you can run with either side up, the front or the back up, or a combination thereof. Now, obviously, if you were to remove the front window, you probably want to open up this back window if you're going to be driving at any sort of speed, as that would kind of catch a lot of air and act as a parachute. But you can ride with your sides up, the back up, the front up, any combination thereof that seems good to you. And I think this would be a great setup. For summer camping, if you were to get a mosquito net and lay over this and sleep like this, I think it would retain a lot less heat. But also for your pets, kind of driving around at low speeds throughout the summertime, or even if you wanted to go on a quick picnic, I think this would be really nice. It would provide a little bit of shade without being too closed in like a full SUV. I think this kind of safari top look is really, really neat, and I definitely plan on trying that when the weather allows. But let's go ahead and get the rest of this thing down. Alright, so looking here at the dimensions, this is the front door for it, and it just slides in some square grooves. But the dimensions of this door are roughly 42.5 inches at the bottom and almost 4 feet at the top. Very, very close to 4 feet. And the reason for this is the bottom of the wheel wells are 42 inches apart, but it is trapezoidal shaped here in the bed as well. So everything is not square here, unfortunately, with the Tacoma. Now, the wheel wells only come up to about here. All of this is just leftover space. You can obviously go up a little bit higher if you wanted to, but with this design and this size, the top here goes right to the bottom of these factory bed rails, these accessory rails, and I wanted everything I have to sit underneath of that. So that's about where I would start. Also, this whole thing is 14 7/8 inch from top to bottom, and again, I think that is a pretty good size. Now, you could put these holes and these conduit caps wherever you wanted to, and I think maybe even if I was to do it again, instead of using conduit caps, I would just use like cabinet knobs. I think that would be a little bit better because the screw would be coming up from the bottom and hitting the knob, and also you're using an actual knob instead of these conduit caps. Would have been a pretty good idea, and I might actually switch these out for some knobs when I find some. But just anything round will really do. That's why I went with these conduit caps, because I thought they'd be pretty cheap. But knobs would be a little bit of an improvement. So looking at this top door in its entirety, we're looking at roughly 52.5 inches wide, and from front to back, we're looking at right at 21 inches. And again, if you have some sort of topper, I would recommend going a little bit narrower on this, but overall it did work out. Now, again, most toppers do kind of come towards each other, the sides do, as you go up. They are trapezoidal shaped, not exactly rectangular, and that is the reason you would go a little bit narrower for this door. But overall, I really like this design. Having a gap here in the front allows me to stick my toes up through here when I'm laying on my air mattress, and I'm not constantly kicking this thing, which is very comfortable and convenient. And these hinges really make this whole action a lot nicer, and it's not constantly banging around. This does fit very, very tight on these border boards that I have kind of going around here. all of this is just done in 2x4, and actually these cover up 2x6 that I'll show you here in a second. But overall, I'm very pleased with this setup. The hinge spacing doesn't really matter, but I came in about 9 inches from either side of the door to the front edge here of that hinge. I just wanted it fairly spaced out so they were kind of helping each other out, kind of spreading that load. But overall, it did work out pretty nicely. Looking at this back part of the frame here, this is all done in 2x6, and it's 58¼ inches from the top of each accessory rail underneath of that. That's how wide your bed is. So again, that goes to show how trapezoidal this whole truck is. But 58¼ and this really is how this whole system works. It basically is just held in place by friction, and it kind of wedges itself in place. You can see here where I made the cut in the 2x6. That does have a hinge there on the bottom and allows the whole thing to collapse. It's also held tight here with that barrel bolt, but you can see my hinge for this top door is just inside of that. Obviously, this is the way it would have to go, because if your top door hinge was on this side, the whole thing will not collapse the way we intended it to. So you definitely want to keep it inside. Now, where you make this cut doesn't really matter. Mine is about 11 inches in on that 58¼ inch back board, and then each of these 2x6s that do the width of it are about 18¾ overall. I used a full 2x6 for this. If you had more 2x6s, you could bring this out as far as you wanted to, but overall that was a full 8-foot board by the time I got done cutting it, so it all worked out. Also here you can see where the front door lives. I just brought this out by a width of plywood and then made this big block off plate here on the front. The front door slides down in this gap, and then it can't rattle around because you have this front block off plate. I did add this small block here in the rear that you can see is stained. I added that just to keep everything a little bit tighter. All of this is just squared off, so obviously here in the back, this front door doesn't fill up all that space, but the corner does come up all the way and match up to this, and that is just about 4 7/8 away from this bedside. So here you can see where I cut a 1x6. This fills that factory cutout here in your bed, and that helps to keep everything in place. You can also see up here where I put the bottom hinge. Again, this allows the whole system to collapse. Now the only thing left to show here is just this frame all the way around it. Nothing special here, but this is how I just kind of cleaned everything up. I didn't want the top here sticking up any farther than the edges, so I just took some scraps of leftover plywood and screwed these down. Again, that kind of gives you a flat work surface if you were to do anything up here, and I think it has a lot cleaner look. Now whichever topper you choose will have a similar clamp to this. I just took my oscillating multi-tool and kind of notched it out. Wherever you have these will kind of determine where this is, but basically the bottom of this is sitting on that 2x6, and then I just notched out the frame here to go around that clamp. Again, I think it has a very nice clean look to it, and I was pretty pleased with the result. So now we'll go ahead and remove the whole setup. So the only thing you have to do is come over here and loosen this barrel bolt, pick up the door, and then pick up here from the center, and you can see everything collapse, swing out of the way, and you're ready to take it out of the truck. So another pro of this setup, it also folds down pretty small and can fit in any small corner of your garage. You can see we have the front door just laying up against it all, and it's just leaning up against this shelf, but overall it really doesn't take up a whole lot of space, but it does have a big impact when it's in my truck. So I hope this gave you all a good look at how I built my bed box, and I hope you all can build yours a little bit better. Now, again, this was the first run. I've never really seen anyone make anything similar to this, but the main reason I wanted this is because it comes out of my truck so easily and so quickly. And again, my soft topper just complements that idea. It does come off really quickly, neatly, and then leaves me with a very usable bed in a matter of minutes. So thank you all very much for watching. Have a fantastic week, everybody. As always, leave your comments in the comment section. We do really look forward to hearing what you all have to say. But thank you all again. We'll catch you next time.